A question before we begin. Before we speak of climate, before we speak of carbon, before we speak of population or policy, we must ask a quieter question. How does life persist on a finite planet? This narration is not an argument against humanity, nor a call to fear the future. It is a reflection on how nature itself organizes survival. It explores why water has always determined where civilizations rise, why some lands sustain life endlessly, and why others must be left untouched for life elsewhere to exist. It asks whether the climate crisis is a failure of technology or a failure of wisdom. And it offers a simple, ancient insight: that humanity does not perish because it grows, but because it forgets where growth does not belong. What follows is not instruction, but understanding.
Philosophy in time. Philosophy has often been accused of being detached from reality, of asking questions that do not feed the hungry or build nations or solve crises. Yet history reveals something quietly inconvenient. Again and again, humanity stumbles into crisis: economic collapse, political decay, social fragmentation, environmental breakdown, and only later discovers that philosophers had already mapped the fault lines. They warned before markets collapsed. They cautioned before empires fell. They spoke of limits before excess destroyed balance. Philosophy does not rush. It watches patterns. It waits for time to testify. Today, humanity faces a planetary crisis that is spoken of in data, graphs, policies, and projections. But beneath all of it lies a simpler truth, one older than science, older than economics, older than civilization itself. Water is life. Population, the unavoidable fact. Population growth is often treated as a problem to be solved. But philosophy begins by refusing to argue with reality. Life reproduces. Survival seeks continuation. Longevity multiplies presence. The growth of human numbers is not a political accident. It is the consequence of success. Medical knowledge reduces death. Agriculture stabilizes food. Technology extends lifespan. To imagine a world without population growth is to imagine a world without life asserting itself. And so philosophy reframes the question, not whether humanity will grow, but how that growth expresses itself upon the earth. Every species expands until it meets resistance. The difference with humans is that we possess reason, and therefore responsibility. The earth is not meant to be used uniformly. Modern thinking often assumes that all land is equal, that every hill, valley, plain, and mountain exists merely as potential real estate. Nature disagrees. The earth differentiates itself deliberately. Mountains rise, plains spread, slopes transition, valleys receive. This is not aesthetic, it is functional. With modern technology, humanity can thrive on plains and gently sloping lands. Cities can rise vertically. Food can be produced efficiently. Energy can be generated cleanly. There is no necessity, only impatience, in expanding aggressively into mountains. When desire replaces discernment, appetite masquerades as need. Civilizations do not collapse because they lack power. They collapse because they misuse it. Downstream consequences, the invisible sufferers. Those who suffer first from ecological damage are rarely those who caused it. A mountain cleared upstream may benefit a few, but it removes water from thousands downstream. Farms lose irrigation, cities face shortages, food quality declines. When vegetation shrinks, water stagnates. Disease vectors multiply. Malnutrition follows soil exhaustion. Climate change is not only about temperature, it is about the breakdown of protective systems that once kept life stable. Life in the plains, a civilizational lesson. Consider the great civilizations of the Nile, Egypt, Sudan, vast desert lands, and yet for thousands of years they sustained agriculture, cities, and culture. Why? Because life in the plains was made possible by restraint in the highlands. The river Nile does not rise in deserts. It rises in vegetated highlands, where forests regulate rainfall and stabilize flow. The highlands are capital. The plains live on interest. When the source is protected, even deserts bloom. When the source is damaged, even fertile lands begin to fail. Water's journey and nature's wisdom. Water does not emerge where humans settle most aggressively. It emerges where vegetation is allowed to mature. Streams begin quietly, under shade, within roots, inside undisturbed systems. They then travel outward, serving lands they never occupy. Nature never intended humanity to live at the source of life, but to receive life with distance and respect. Even ancient spiritual texts understood this separation between origin and habitation. To build at the headwaters is to mistake proximity for entitlement. Capital, interest, and short-sighted wisdom. There is an old economic truth that predates modern finance. Wise people live on interest, not capital. Mountains are natural capital. They produce interest endlessly: water, climate stability, fertile plains, predictable seasons. When forests are cleared from highlands, humanity is not developing, it is liquidating. What appears as progress today is often tomorrow's scarcity prepaid. This is not ignorance. It is short-term thinking elevated to policy. The illusion of necessity. Humanity often claims there is no choice, that population pressure forces expansion everywhere. But philosophy asks gently, is this necessity or convenience? Technology already offers alternatives: vertical living, efficient transport, renewable energy, water recycling. The destruction of water catchments is not forced. It is easier than restraint, and ease has never been a moral defense. Policy as applied wisdom. Environmental policy succeeds when it aligns with geography. Not all land should be used. Some land must be preserved absolutely. Mountains and steep lands must be left to regenerate. Plains and gentle slopes can sustain humanity. This is not ideology. It is alignment with reality. Education worth adopting teaches restraint as intelligence, not limitation. The civilization that endures. Every civilization is remembered not by how much it took, but by what it chose not to destroy. Nature does not ask humanity to retreat. It asks humanity to understand. Water will continue to flow where wisdom allows it, and it will disappear where wisdom is abandoned. The question before humanity is not technological, it is philosophical. Whether we will continue to consume our capital or finally learn to live on interest. The civilization that endures will not be the one that conquers mountains, but the one that recognizes why mountains must remain unconquered. Water is life, and life endures only where wisdom is remembered.
What remains after the words. Every generation believes it stands at the edge of history. Yet history remembers generations not by what they claimed to know, but by what they chose to preserve. Long after debates end, after policies change, after technologies evolve, water will still flow only where its sources are respected. Mountains will still decide whether plains live or dry. Forests will still determine whether climate remains gentle or turns harsh. Nature will not negotiate. It will only respond. And so, the question this work leaves behind is not urgent, but enduring. Will humanity continue to consume the foundations of its own life, or finally learn to live from what nature renews? Water is life, and wisdom is knowing where life begins and where it must be left alone.